Good morning, my name is Josh from CyclonesOZ, and today we're going to be taking an in-depth look this morning into Tropical Cyclone Megan, which has formed and is rapidly intensifying now in the Gulf of Carpentaria, just about 6 to 8 hours away from landfall on what will likely be Centre Island near Burraloola and Robinson River on the Northern Territory, but very close to the Northern Territory and Queensland border. And we'll also talk about some impacts that it's expected to bring to far northern Queensland and the rest of the Northern Territory as well later on in the video. We've got a very serious situation here unfolding. As you can see on satellite imagery, this storm is obviously quite a lot stronger than Category 2 status. It might not be evident on this imagery here, but you can see how just the swirly pattern and the swirly features in this really deep thunderstorm convection that we're seeing here. That means that the system has an eye wall, it has an eye feature underneath all of this convection. It's very hard to see on this sort of imagery, but if we were to take a look at infrared satellite imagery, which tells us how strong these thunderclouds are, you can see with that big burst of lightning activity around the center that's rotating around a common point right about here now. That indicates that there is an eye in this storm, and it is likely a lot stronger than Category 2 status. We're probably looking at a Category 3 strength severe tropical cyclone here, but I'm still going to keep the official estimate in mind that this is a Category 2 strength tropical cyclone, but I reckon that this is going to make landfall far stronger than Category 2 status. We're probably going to be talking high-end Category 3 or Category 4 status here as this makes landfall, and I would not be surprised if an eye starts to develop on this tropical cyclone as it does make landfall. Then again, it could completely fall apart. It is in an environment with relatively high wind shear values right now of around 20 to 25 knots, so it isn't in the most favorable environment atmospherically speaking, but it definitely does have the sea surface temperatures and the atmospheric fuel and the mid-level humidity to really rapidly intensify right up towards landfall. Now, just taking a look at radar imagery, you can see that that eye is starting to become really apparent here on the radar imagery. So the center of the storm is about here where the cursor is right now, but you can already see that there's some rainfall really starting to wrap around here. Now the radar imagery is very shoddy. Here it is. We're talking about 300 and 400 kilometers away from the nearest rain radar on Mornington Island. So the rain radar information that we're getting here is very bad, to say the least, to say what doesn't need to be said, but it will get marginally better as it does approach landfall on Centre Island near a little community near Mulua. It will likely make landfall on that community there before moving towards the Northern Territory mainland, making landfall near Burraloola, Centre Island, and moving inland towards Robinson River and Boojum. There's a cyclone warning in place from Groote Island and then from Port Roper, extending across the Northern Territory coastline towards the Northern Territory Queensland border, and then also including Mornington Island as well. They're likely going to receive cyclonic winds there. They're already receiving cyclonic winds on Centre Island as well, 63 kilometers an hour from the south. That is just the threshold for cyclonic winds, and you can see that is way outside of the convection right now, the thunderstorm activity. So we're likely going to see these wind values skyrocket over the course of today, and I'd not be surprised if by later today into early this evening we're looking at 100 to 110 kilometer an hour winds as this storm makes landfall. There will be more updates throughout today as necessary on the channel as well as this cyclone makes landfall. It will likely be the strongest cyclone landfall that Australia receives this year. We're probably going to be talking Category 3, maybe a very low-end Category 4 strength severe tropical cyclone making landfall later today and into tonight. So there's really not much in the way of forecasting that we can do. Cross-reference the forecast right now with the Bureau of Meteorology's current forecast at 10 a.m. Today, which is about, from the time of this video being released, it's about 4 hours ago. You can see they've got it as a Category 2 strength severe tropical cyclone, expecting it to be upgraded to a Category 3 strength severe tropical cyclone as well as it makes its landfall on Mulua before moving inland towards Robinson River, Burraloola as well, and it will hold Category 3 strength severe tropical cyclone status as it heads inland towards Burraloola as well before it will start to rapidly weaken further inland. All these communities that have that orange colour over them are under a cyclone warning. That includes a lot of Indigenous communities up in the Northern Territory, and then some other bigger communities as well, such as Robinson River, MacArthur River Mine, and then Burraloola as well. And I say bigger communities very lightly. These are generally speaking towns with populations of around 1 to 200 people. Some of them are slightly bigger than others, but nothing too major here in terms of population. There's probably only about 3,000 or 4,000 people that live under the cyclone warning right now. So you're talking a very, very very remote region of Australia, but nonetheless, this is a dangerous cyclone threat to all people expected to be impacted, especially under the dangerous Category 3 strength severe cyclone core that's going to be moving ashore. Bureau of Meteorology has also outlined the possibility of very destructive wind gusts in excess of 210 kilometres an hour as this cyclone makes landfall. That's not reciprocated amongst the forecast models. We're going to start to see these winds really pick up, however, around Centre Island and Mooloolah. You can see wind gusts expected to peak out at around 175 kilometres an hour as this system makes landfall, and that's also reciprocated amongst the Access G3 model. But right now, it's not so much about the forecasting, it's more so about the monitoring of what this system is going to be doing in the right now, because what the storm's doing right now is very important to how it's going to behave up towards landfall. And considering its continuing rapid intensification right now, we're going to likely see this storm add on more knots as it approaches landfall. And I do kind of worry in the sense that we're likely going to be seeing a tropical cyclone make landfall at around Category 3. It'll be high-end Category 3 status, bare minimum, considering how the system looks right now. The Bureau of Meteorology is still a couple of hours behind on this system, but we'll cut them some slack considering they're only doing 6-hour updates. But in a situation like this, I would love to see them doing 1-hour updates right up towards landfall, even though hardly anyone in terms of population is going to be impacted by this tropical cyclone. The 1-hour updates that can be broadcasted by via radios and so forth up in the northern parts of Australia, they'll be crucial to helping the people up here really prepare for a cyclone, because the Bureau of Meteorology only outlined the possibility of a Category 1 or 2 strength tropical cyclone making landfall. The forecast models didn't really get on board with this system becoming quite strong until yesterday, when I started outlining the potential of a Category 3 or strong Category 3 strength landfall. The Bureau of Meteorology only jumped on board with that this morning, which is kind of concerning because the people up here have not had time to prepare for the absolute worst, which looks like it's going to happen at this time. A Category 3 strength severe tropical cyclone will cause significant property damage, and if you do have farms and homesteads up here, then they're likely going to suffer roof failures, especially in a destructive cyclone core where you're seeing wind speeds of around 210 kilometres an hour. That's some very, very worrying figures, that's for sure. Now, the worst of the storm is certainly not ashore yet. I'm expecting landfall to occur at around midnight tonight. The Bureau of Meteorology expecting it at around 1 to 2 a.m. tomorrow morning. It will likely weaken very fast as it gets itself over land. It will hold Category 3 status until probably around 6 a.m. tomorrow morning before weakening below that and then weakening very rapidly from then onwards. But it still has around 12 hours to rapidly intensify before landfall and before land really does get the better of this storm. So we're likely going to be seeing this tropical cyclone intensify right up towards landfall, and it will likely get quite strong. We're talking, as I've said a million times this upload, Category 3 to Category 4 status. Now, there's also other impacts beyond wind and storm surge. Storm surge expect 4 to 5 feet of water to come ashore above the highest astronomical tide, but we're also looking out for a very significant amount of rainfall. As you just saw with the amount of thunderstorms around the centre of the storm, very heavy rainfall is expected to fall, especially over the next 24 hours. We could be seeing rainfall totals around the landfall site approaching 500 millimetres, which is very much reasonable and possible. And then over the next 3 days, as this system moves inland, you're talking about 600 millimetres being the maximum possible, maybe even up towards 700 or 800 millimetres if the storm does slow down just a little bit more, because that's another factor in this tropical cyclone, is it's going to be very slow moving, especially on Monday. It barely moves on Monday, very, very close to the coastline as well, which means it'll be able to pull in a lot of moisture there, and then it finally starts to weaken off Tuesday as it moves across the Northern Territory Tuesday, Wednesday, and then into Thursday into Western Australia by the looks of things. Could this storm reform? Well, it doesn't really look like it right now. I give it a 0% chance of reformation, but again, it's something we're going to have to be watching. If it was going to reform, you're talking sometime towards the end of March, so it's definitely going to be fighting some more hostile conditions in the West Australian waters. But yeah, this storm is very concerning indeed, in the sense that it has gotten very strong, very close to landfall, and it's going to give the people on the Northern Territory a very big scare, that's for sure. And it's very concerning in the sense that this scare is going to be coming in the form of a very strong severe tropical cyclone. Anyways, that basically does it on this tropical cyclone update. Thank you so much for watching this video. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and also thank you so much to the channel members for supporting the channel this month. There'll be another update later today on this tropical cyclone threat, and I'll catch you all in the next storm. Goodbye.